And today we have an amazing guest, Jake Jensen. The one, the one is here. Yeah, the amazing actor, professor, sportsman. He's been all over the place. He did movies. So, Jake, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
It's really my pleasure. I have to thank you again for being here today and also for the audience. So, Jake, just for people to know a bit more about you, if you characterize Jake Jensen, how would you, tell to people what are you, how you've been, arriving until we arrive here today, these days? How was Jake 20 years ago, for example? So, how all this happened? Tell us.
Well, I think it depends on the day how I introduce myself. Some days it's Professor Jake Jensen. Some days actor. Some days both. That's what I love about my life is every day is different, and I do a lot of different things. But I think actor. Some days, like I said, I do sports psychology, so I'm also a consultant working with high level athletes, collegiate and high level athletes. But I think my whole life prepared me for this. I was an athlete myself, a tennis player. My mom's a professor, so I kind of followed her steps in terms of seeing, teaching, and then the acting thing kind of just came out of nowhere. I got that urge to act about 20 years ago, and slowly started following it, and it's led to some amazing opportunities. So it's interesting, now the age and everything I'm at is to look back over like the last 20 years and see how everything's kind of contributed to where I am at today in ways that I never probably thought that would happen, at the time.
Amazing, amazing. So, what was the first thing that you actually did? I mean, was it something when you like growing up and you were a child that you want to be a model or actor or sportsman? What was the first thing that came into your life?
The first thing I really committed to was the piano.
All right.
The good pianist, and at age 7, I asked for a piano for Christmas. My mom was like, well, that's not what most 7-year-old boys ask for Christmas, but sure, if you're willing to like play and practice, which I wanted to do. And then when I was about 13, I really got into sports and tennis. My mom was a very good tennis player, so I started I played with her, but then I really got serious about it. And that kind of took over my teenage years. And then led through college. I had a scholarship and played in the U.S. We get scholarships for sports to play. So that kind of led through college. And then after college is when I started getting a little bit more the acting bug to start doing that.
Sure.
And then the modeling was more, people just always would tell me, like, you'd be a great model. And I was like, well, I can't do that. And then finally, one day I was like, well, why not? Like, everybody keeps telling me I'd be good at it, so why not try it? And I actually had a lot of fun doing it. And then that led to commercials, which ultimately I think also helped me get into breaking the TV and film.
Wonderful. Congratulations for that. So, you were a sportsman, right? You were a tennis player for many years.
Yeah.
How did that start? And, what is your goal in this particular area?
Well, I got started when I was really young. My mom would take me to play when I was like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. She would play every Saturday morning, so I would go and watch her play, and then she would stay and help me get started. But I enjoyed it, but I didn't get like passionate about it, and like I said, until about age 13. And then at 13, I don't know why, I'm somebody who has to move a lot. I have a lot of energy. I don't like not moving. And I think that's where I really got interested in sports, and specifically tennis, because it allowed me to move. And then it just kind of became my passion through college. And then after college, I started coaching, kept playing. I actually played my best tennis in my late 20s. I kept playing some low-level professional tournaments and things.
Sure.
Not really ever believing that I was probably going to make a living doing it, but I had a lot of fun and met a lot of great people and traveled to tournaments. And then I got into sports psychology because I realized how important the mind is with performance. Sure. I realized I would have been a better player if I had done more mental training from early on. And so that's really kind of my sports background, was playing, coaching, and then sports psychology.
So during the sports psychology, I mean, you are a professor in a very known university in California. Well, how's your experience in there? I mean, what is the attraction? How you feel the trend, let's just say, from the students?
Well, I think that's the best part of teaching is the students. I mean, I realized during COVID when everything was fully online and all classes were on Zoom or just like I recorded videos that I really missed like interacting with students. So that's really nice to be back in the classroom. I only teach 2 classes once a week, so it leaves me a lot of flexibility to do other things. But I do enjoy being in the classroom, and then I also work with the athletes at our university. So I do a lot of mental training with them, and to see them improve their confidence, get better times, and that's very rewarding to help them achieve their goals and dreams. So I find that very really a great part of my week is getting to work one-on-one with some of the athletes.
Very honorable, honestly. I mean, you're teaching principal values to people, when they're starting to learn what is humanity values. So it's really rewarding, to hear something like this. So congrats for that. So, and then during modeling, when you start modeling, was it the same time as you were professor, or you just start movies first before you've been modeling? How was that stage?
I started when I was actually in graduate school
Okay.
For sports psychology, and I was in Tennessee, which is not a big modeling city. So I did some music videos in Tennessee, like country music, Lady Antebellum, and some other country artists. And then I got an agency in Miami. That was kind of the biggest market that wasn't too far. I mean, it was still pretty far, but I got an agency in Miami, and then I started doing really well. I booked some national commercials for brands like Fiat and Hennessy and others. And then I was those were commercials, but I also booked Calvin Klein, Perry Ellis, some pretty big catalogs, and it was a great way. It helped supplemented paying for graduate school, and I enjoyed it. So that's Miami was a really good city to me for modeling.
Good experience, and the sun, of course. Good weather, good atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm someone who loves the sun and loves being outdoors. So the more I can spend time in that kind of weather, the happier I am.
Of course, absolutely. You'll need the sun for some happiness.
Yeah.
So you've been also in several movies, and you've been acting, and you also been producing, or you're just actor on those movies?
I've been a producer on an independent film, so not a huge budget, but in that case, the producer has to do a lot of work. So I did everything from making up call sheets for the other actors, finding locations, scheduling. We shot for I think 28 days. So that's a lot of different locations, different call sheets, different actor schedules. So I don't know if I'd ever produce again without a little bit bigger budget, but it was a great learning experience. And hopefully the film will be coming out this spring sometime.
Can you tell us the name of the movie? Or
yeah, it's called Believe.
Okay.
And it's a romantic fantasy, is what I would say. The premise basically is my character. I play the lead male role. I am a war veteran. I was in Afghanistan. I come back very troubled, lots of problems after being in Afghanistan.
Okay.
And I end up going to a therapist, and I fall in love with her. So the first half of the movie is much more of just a romantic kind of journey of how do you navigate falling in love with your therapist. But then the fantasy part comes in, and where she's actually Eve from the Bible.
Okay.
And Eve there's no scripture in the Bible that ever mentions Eve dying. So it's kind of based on that premise that she's been roaming the earth helping people for thousands of years. Or however, it's a fantasy. So,
yeah.
And so about halfway through the movie, my character finds out she's Eve, but also the audience finds out. We find out at the same moment. there's hints of it, but neither one of us, neither myself as the character nor the audience watching, knows that she is until she tells me. And then the rest of the movie is obviously trying to navigate not only a relationship, but a relationship with a immortal woman. So
Amazing.
it's an interesting script. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see the final, the final product, the final edit.
Yeah.
We had to cut it back quite a bit. It ended up being almost 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to get it cut down to about maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. So cutting 45 minutes is a lot. But I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Would that be on cinemas, on Netflix, or any specific platform?
You know what? We're going to do a red carpet event launch or release in LA, and then make a decision whether we try to do more of a film festival circuit, or if we go to like a film market and see if we can distribute it and possibly get one of the streaming platforms to buy it or to stream it. So that's still in the, we haven't made decisions on that yet.
Keep us posted on the date of that red carpet.
I will, and maybe we'll do one in
Florida.
We might do one in Florida as well, since I have a a home in Florida. That would be a great place to have a release, a red carpet kind of event as well. Would be fun.
Exciting. So you've been also in other roles. Can you tell us a bit more about the other movies that you've been involved?
Well, the largest film out right now that I've been in, had a role in, was Challengers, with Zendaya and Josh O'Connor and Mike Faced, Luca Guadagnino, big director. That was a great experience. Shot, I was 8 or 9 days in Boston shooting that, a year and a half ago, around there. The movie, I thought it turned out great. It got a lot of good publicity. Unfortunately, kind of got shut out of any Oscar nominations, which was surprising. But that's the entertainment. You never know. But that was a great experience. Probably one of the definitely one of the highlights of my career so far.
Okay.
And then I did have a role in King Richard, another tennis movie. Unfortunately, my scenes got cut from there, but my name is in the credits, so I still get some residuals, which is nice.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that. Amazing.
Yeah.
And during this, what was your greatest experience that you had that you can highlight of moments that you had during filming?
With Challengers?
With any of the movies that you like to highlight?
Well, I think Challengers, was one of those films where I auditioned for it, and I felt so good about the audition.
Sure.
I thought, I got this, and then I didn't hear anything for over a month. And usually, as an actor, if you don't hear anything for a month, you just forget about it, because that probably means they've made other choices and moved on. And then I was actually flying home to see my parents, visit them, and I got a call from my manager saying, "You booked the role. You need to stay in LA. Do not leave." And I was literally on a shuttle bus to
oh
LA.
My God!
So I called my parents and said, I can't leave right now. I've got to stay in LA. And then a few weeks, it ended up, they still pushed it a few weeks later, but then I got flown to Boston for about 9 days, which was just an incredible experience. They treated us like movie stars, which was fun. I mean, I got limousine picking me up and taking me to the airport, and flying first class, and private driver picking me up, which I'm sure bigger name movie stars get very used to, but as an up and coming actor who hasn't been on a lot of huge films, it was kind of cool to get treated that way, and to feel like I was a part of such a big production, and I was a part of it, which was great. And just seeing actors that you've seen in a lot of films, to see them working, to talk to them, to be in a trailer or to have a trailer right next to them, to be on set talking to them, is just other working actors. It's really a great experience. I want to say it kind of justifies all the hard work to go, hey, like this is possible, and I can do this, and I'm here, and I've worked hard for this. and you realize they're great actors, but they're also human beings, just like any of us. And now that was a really cool experience. And I'm not saying all actors are easy to work with, but in this case, all the actors that were the bigger name actors on this film were very, very easy to work with, were very professional. It made us all feel very comfortable and part of things. I think that comes from the director, Luca, as well, how professional he was and really wanted our input and talked to us individually about what we thought about the scenes. And so, I think for me, that having that experience was a great learning experience and just motivates me to want to be, in other films.
So from this experience that you had with your team and the production team, do you want to highlight anyone in particular, or just the whole team, or a studio in particular itself?
I think for me, working with Luca Guadagnino's, like, again, Call Me by Your Name, other big films, he took the time individually with some of us to walk through the scenes multiple times, very, very hands-on in a good way, and very complimentary. One day I could tell he was running behind schedule and stressed, but he didn't bring that on the rest of us. And I just, I think that was a great experience for me to get to work with a director like that and sure. See what I mean. I think his style would be much more. I don't really want to ever be a director, but that's more how I would see myself directing. Is being treating the actors as not as equals, but certainly wanting their opinion and their feedback and make sure that that everybody has the same feedback. And that was really great for me to work with that and see.
It's always nice when you work on a team and everyone really works as a team. It's always very pleasant, and everyone, to hear other people's opinion, because it's always very comforting.
Yeah.
So, and after that, you went to two other movies. Which ones were?
Well, I went right back after that to working on Believe, and it's so interesting to go from I don't know what the budget for Challengers, let's say 50 million or whatever it was.
Sure.
Then go back to $100,000 budget movie. But in different ways, they were both incredible experiences.
Sure.
And it's good. Probably it was a little humbling to go back to. I'm filling up my car on my own money and driving 2 hours to set and organizing everything but I think that's good. Maybe I was getting in my head a little bit, going, "Oh, I'm a movie star now," and then back to. But I'm very proud of both projects, and they're completely different budget, completely different type of films. But I think that's what most actors go in, not for the money, but for the challenge, for the art of acting. And I think it's a good reminder to work on a smaller indie film to be reminded of why we actually do what we do. So that I think that's good to have both.
What was for you the most knowledgeable in an aspect as as experience from both sides, being in the big movie and then the short movie? What do you take that as experience? I mean, what was the most knowledgeable for you during these two stages?
I think, although obviously money and a large budget allows you to do certain things that you can't do on a smaller film, the process of filmmaking is the same. And the preparation and rehearsing and working well with other actors and listening to your director, like all of that's the same. You obviously have some limitations with, you're not going to be staying in a 5-star hotel and
sure.
Things like that. But the actual filmmaking itself is very similar, and I think that's what I realized. And seeing how, like, again, Luca treated the actors. It was, as a producer, I really wanted to make sure actors felt involved, that they felt they had say in how things went, that they were respectful, and I think honestly my sports psychology background I'm good at working with people. I'm good at managing different personalities and things. I think that honestly, for Believe, made a huge difference because I could really use that aspect of my background and training to, managing a cast of actors spread out over well over a year period of time. Different,
yeah, the capability of how to adapt to any character,
absolutely.
of course, yeah, yeah.
I think I did well with helping others through that. Now, sometimes I was completely exhausted, but it was a good experience for me too to go from producer in the morning, and then I'm
Sure.
on set acting in the afternoon. And sometimes I was pretty exhausted by the time I actually got on set for myself as the actor. But again, amazing experience for me.
Absolutely. What advice, Jake, would you give to fellow actors like you, to be resilient? Because of course, movies are very competitive. There's a lot of competition even between actors. What do you think, according to your experience, is the most challenging for actors, and how should they overcome this inability, let's just say it, in competition, focus on their own work, how to make the next step?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is most of us go through long periods of time where we don't book anything. And if your entire identity is tied up with being an actor and you're not working, it can be incredibly frustrating, and you can burn out. I mean, I see a lot of actors do not last, do not stay in LA because they're not working. And I think you have to realize that there's more to you than just being an actor. There's other parts of your identity. Easier said than done, but I think you have to develop other aspects. I'm fortunate in the sense that I have, I'm also a sports psychologist, so I have that. I don't put all of my worth in being an actor. And I know some people have said to me, well, maybe that holds you back from moving forward as much as an actor. I personally don't think so. I think for me, it's allowed me to explore other parts of myself to I'm not stressed out that I have to book a job to pay rent or to pay mortgage in LA. But I think most importantly, it's you have to stay busy. So I think that's why having your own projects that you're working on, creating, it's a huge part as well. So, I'm always like to have something that I'm working on of my own project related to acting so that I don't feel like I'm falling behind. I'm keeping my skills sharp, that I'm still working creatively in the acting world. Because for most of us, there are going to be months at a time with even if we're auditioning, we're not going to be booking work. That's just the reality of this industry, which can be very, very challenging in terms of.
Would you say that mentally can drain down, a human being, of course, because you feel like, I don't know, maybe the feeling of helpless, or maybe going to depression, maybe because they need to have activity. Any human being needs activity mentally and physically to feel fulfilled, I think, in the market and in society. So your advice would be for people to have explore other skills as a human being, right?
I think so, yes. And I think the more skills you pursue, that also makes you a better actor, because you may have skills that will help you book roles. I mean, my tennis and my piano have helped me book different roles. And I have other things I want to learn how to play the guitar. That I could see that helping me book roles down the road. I could see. I had a lot of people tell me I have kind of a surfer, Southern California look. So if I learned to surf,
amazing.
that could help me potentially book some of the there's certain shows out right now with surfers and things. So I think the more I have tried surfing, but I'm not very good. So that's on my list this summer when the water's a little warmer, is to take some lessons and get better at that. But I think it's good to always have skills that you want to be developing for our own benefit, but also it will help you as an actor as well, I think. And then, just so all of your self-worth and identity is not tied up to the roles that you book or not book. But we basically, if I audition 15 times in a week, which would be a good week, and I don't book any of those, that's basically 15 interviews that I've had that I've been rejected for. I mean, that is not easy for anybody.
Yeah.
So you have to, I think you almost have to go in knowing, not taking it personally, and going, hey, I still got a chance to act. I got a chance to be in front of a casting director, or at least the video that I sent in got to be in front of them. Yeah. And that, and not look at that as a failure, but look at that as a learning, growing experience.
Just to complement that part, I think it's very important, because I think this applies to any profession, really. The world is not perfect. You do not control anything at all around you, or even yourself. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's uncontrollable. So what I advise always to people also is, take it everything as experience, never as negative, because that will create positive dopamine, will help you develop your brain in a good path, and always think it didn't get to where it goes. So, okay, so that what you did, it didn't took you there. So it's extra experience that you already know in the future how to do if it happens again. And if people actually have this mindset, in the future, when they look back, they won't have regrets. It's very important, because having regrets about the past mentally can take very setbacks. That's why I'm just complimenting what you're just saying.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with athletes. When you lose, that doesn't have to be a failure. Athletes get so conditioned. Winning is success, and losing is failure. But if you learn from the losses, if you improve and get better and grow, then it's a success. And I think we have to look at auditions a little bit the same way, that, hey, I didn't get the role, but that doesn't mean this was a failure. This was a growing experience. I got to learn from this, get better, and there's so many things out of our control. I mean, I booked a commercial a few years ago for a pretty big clothing company.
Sure.
And I actually went to the wardrobe fitting. I was all set to be on set the next day, and I got a call at like 10 p.m. that night from my agent saying they decided you were too tall next to the female actor that they had booked.
Oh my God.
So they're and they really want her, so they're going to rebook your role because you were too tall, like in comparison to her. And I mean, that's completely out of my control. It's nothing I did. It's nothing
But I mean, I have a remark. Me as an audience for that, what was the problem? Just because you're taller? I mean, what was the significance of that?
You know what? I mean, that's what they told me, but maybe it was something else. We just don't know, and that's okay. I'm disappointed, but again, it's like, well, I can't.
Actual experience, right?
It was experience, and you know what? I'll move on from it. But it, I laugh about it now, but at the time, it was really hurtful and disappointing, and I mean, but I didn't stay in that space very long, which I think
I always say to people, rejected, you're always gonna have during life. There's many points of rejection all the time. You just have to feel, as you just mentioned, and you did mention very, very well. Don't take it personally. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's something that is out of your control, as you just mentioned also. Just take it as, oh, well, it's extra experience. Of course, it's not a joke. It's very harmful in that particular moment, especially with not, expecting nothing like that. But when it happens, of course it happens. I mean, just move forward and take the next role and, continue your path. I mean, it doesn't have to stop your path there or your goals that you wanted to do. You just, I mean, if you are mentally focused that you want to arrive somewhere, you'll get there, because, I mean, I always say to people, how many times you fall in life? I mean, I can assure you that I've fallen at least hundreds of times, but it's not about that. It's about how fast you get up. And this is the remark that people sometimes get laid down. Don't lay down, If you have a goal, commit. If you want to commit, start. You need the point of start. If you don't start, you never know what's going to happen. Because most people, I mean, I'm not reprimanding, entrepreneurs, because experience does not come. You need to pass through it. so it's hard to have. I mean, to have it, we don't have it. But when you have an idea, just move forward, next step, and commit. You need to start.
Yeah.
If you think, oh, it's gonna fail, we're gonna have problems, the life of itself is a problem, man.
Right.
The daily life is already a problem. Why you think it's gonna be? It's just an extra one. Just put it
Yeah.
on the bucket and
Yeah.
ride the way through. I mean, that's life, and
Yeah.
take a joy with it. That's the important thing. Sometimes you do things that people wouldn't even imagine. Maybe in some movies, you made a run of 10 kilometers. But if you do it in laugh, in the end, you actually really enjoy 100% what you just done. And for some people,
Yeah.
maybe they don't understand why you've done it. But that's the thing. You don't need to understand everything. It's just the committing.
Yeah.
When it's committing to that path. Yeah.
I love your point of you have to start. And I look back at my life, and I never have regretted starting something. My only regret, sometimes I don't really live in regret, but is that I didn't start it sooner. Some of the things, but I never once have looked back and go, "Oh, I wish I hadn't started that." Even things that have failed, it's like, well, at least I started that and found out that that's not something I necessarily wanted to pursue or do. But I've never regretted starting. But I think starting something is always the hardest thing. But yeah, I love that. I love how you said that. It's so important to start and not to put it off.
You need always to think. I mean, I'm 50, so of course I can talk because it's been many years in this society. So I'm an historian. So, but even if you are 20, of course you don't have this experience. But I can tell you, for you to for anyone who hears this, to have a shortcut. Don't ever be afraid to commit. Life is always a challenge. There's a big journey ahead of you. You should not be afraid of committing because of nothing. Because in the future, if you don't commit in that particular moment, you might be in the future thinking, oh, maybe I should have done that. Well, don't make that happen.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, just do it. If it doesn't work, well, you move to the next step. And that's the experience and positive experience you should have in life.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I talk to my students about this quite often. A lot of them are starting to panic that they don't know exactly what they want to do career-wise, or whether they want to do graduate school or start a career or a job. And I just say start something and see. But you don't have to have everything figured out when you're 20, 21, 22 years old.
Of course.
Try things and go for it, and then you can always adjust and make a different choice. But you never know if you don't try.
Absolutely. There's always the point that you can read, you can be taught, but you will never have the real experience if you don't grow by your own skin itself. I'm not saying generally for everything. Of course, that's something you should not do. But as life experience, as in any type of work or professionally, you should always think in moving ahead and always try. You'll never be afraid to try and move your step forward. I think it's a matter of differentiality, and this is where you see the difference and the significance of the ones that are perseverant and they continue persisting until they arrive the goals, and the ones who are afraid to commit. And this is where you see that main difference, but not anything specific. In any sector, you see this happen. I always say to people, never be afraid to commit whatever you want to commit. Always think that in the future, you take it as experience. So you can start something big, or it does not work, so you take it as experience, but you did try. So in the future, I tried that, it didn't work, so I know it doesn't work. So, it's one thing because you tried it. That's as you just mentioned. About, all this, the conversation is actually very interesting. We were talking about, mentality and humanity, which is, I think, very important to display values in society. What was your experience, regarding this specific subject when you were modeling? What was your experience with other models, he or she, and it doesn't really matter, regarding this perspective? Because it's very competitive, has no regulation. What was your outcome on this?
You know, the modeling industry is interesting. I have had some amazing experiences meeting some amazing people, photographers, other models. Uh, I mean, I worked a big fashion editorial in Miami with Gigi Hadid, who's become probably one of the most well-known models in the world. Super nice on set. I've worked with Green Royfeld, who's a big CR fashion book. It's kind of like a Vogue. She used to be with Vogue. You know, I've met amazing people. I've also seen kind of what I guess you'd call the dark side of modeling, where people get beat up in the sense of they're, you know, told that they're, I mean, I've been told by agents, my nose is, I had an agent in LA tell me my nose was too ugly that I would never book work. And I said, well, I've already booked a lot of work, so that doesn't really make sense. You know, or I've been told I'm too fat, I'm ugly. And fortunately,
people actually told you that.
Oh yeah, to my face.
Amazing.
And I was told by one agent in LA when I first moved here that I had no talent, I would never book work based on talent, that I basically needed to sleep around and that would allow me to book work. And, you know, I fortunately had enough self-confidence and enough maturity to go, hey, that may be what they think, but I know I can work in this industry through hard work. Yeah, I may not be the most experienced or the most talented actor, but I can work on it. I can work with coaches. And the modeling world is even less, you know, regulated than the acting world. At least the acting world, we have unions and we have, I mean, I'm not saying there's not corruption, there is, but the modeling world, unfortunately, gets a lot of that. That being said, I am very fortunate to have had some amazing experiences. I don't regret being in the modeling world. I do remember one time I had an agent that we'd have to go in once a month and basically strip down to our underwear. And she would have her assistant draw on our bodies all the places where she wanted us to, that she thought were like either too fat or not enough muscle or.
Oh my God.
And then like the assistant would draw like on it with a marker on our body. So we would go home and like look at it. And I was in great shape then. I was in my 20s and working out a ton.
Sure.
I mean, and even that, like I would have marker marks all over my body. And I just remember one time leaving the room, and there was this 14-year-old girl standing outside. She was the next one to go in the room, and she seemed so scared already. She was like almost shaking and wouldn't even make eye contact. And I just remember my heart like almost breaking, going, I'm a 27-year-old guy who's pretty confident in himself, and even me, I found this humiliating, but I'm not going to let it like bring me down. But this poor like 14-year-old girl is like, what is this going to do to her? And I just remember thinking, I'm not going back to this agent. I don't care if they're a good agent, if they've booked me a lot of work. I cannot personally support this. And I didn't ever go back. I walked out that room and I still think about that girl. I just think, I hope she's okay, because what do you do as a 14-year-old girl? And she was stunning. Leaving a room with marker all over your body telling you that you're fat when you're not, or whatever. And I just, you know, it still kind of haunts me to this day. And I know she's one of thousands that probably experienced that. And I just thought, you know what, I can't change the whole industry, but I can stand up for myself and not be affiliated with people that I don't agree with the way that they treat others.
Just as a remark, I mean, a situation like that in any other type of work would be totally illegal. How does this happen in the modeling world?
You know what, I think parents let it happen to some degree because they so want to have their child be the next, you know, superstar, the next supermodel, especially with women. I mean, there's a lot of money with men. The money's not quite like for the women in terms of modeling. Acting's a different story, but I just think, you know, it's like, well, and you want something for your child, but it's easy to kind of oversee things or to not pay attention to the warning signs. And sometimes these girls, you know, from smaller towns and stuff get sent to these big cities. You assume, you know, oh, these agents can be very charming and, oh, we'll take care of your child, we'll make sure everything's, but then again, there's just a lot of corruption out there, and I hope it's, I think after the Me Too movement, things changed a little bit. I hope so.
Yeah.
I even got contacted during that whole time about a photographer I'd worked with who had definitely made sexual advances, asked me to get in the bathtub naked with him and all this stuff, and I had not done it, and I didn't book the job. But I didn't take any legal action because I didn't get forced to do anything that I didn't want to do, and I was an adult male who could walk out the room and not feel like a victim. Like, I was strong enough to say, no, I don't want to sleep with you. I don't want to engage in sexual acts with you just to book a Ralph Lauren campaign. But I think about 14, 15 girls and boys, like, guys get victimized too.
I mean, we're talking about, when you are adult, of course, your mentality is different, and, it's your own body, you do whatever. But I mean, we're talking about minors, people, people that, this is totally concern. It's a big concern. And I would say totally legal because, you don't have the consent. I don't think anyone will give this kind of consent to anyone to participate in things like this,
No, but you get these very experienced photographers and agents that are, legitimately predators. They can be extremely charming and make you feel like you're the most beautiful or the most handsome person in the world. And, if you come with me on this shoot, it's going to launch your career and you're going to be a supermodel or you're going to be a celebrity. And, they have their process and way of doing it. And I think we just have to all be very vigilant in protecting, especially mine. Obviously.
Of course.
But unfortunately, I have seen that side of the modeling world, and I wish I could say I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. It's
reality, right?
It's reality.
So, according as you as an expert of all this experience you had, what advice would you give to the modeling sector? What should be done? Should it be, of course, regulated? That's one thing, but by an organization, how would you see how we should work better that specific sector?
Well, I think for minors, parents, assuming that there are parents or guardians involved, they just have to be very, very careful and diligent to make sure that the models have a guardian or a parent with them. I talk about the bad agents out there. There are also some very, very good agents, some very good photographers. So I don't want to make it sound like the entire industry are abusive, because they're not. There's some great people. I've worked with some fantastic people. I think that if anyone's considering a modeling career, they need to really know what they're getting into. They need to be educated. They need to have mentors out there. I think a mentoring program would be really useful. I don't know legally in terms of regulating it. I'm not enough involved in the legal
sure
kind of that side of it to really have much of an opinion on that. But definitely, we all have a responsibility that are involved in that industry in any way, shape, or form to try and protect younger models, even adults. Just because you're over 18 or over 21 does not mean it means you're legally an adult. It doesn't mean that you necessarily ready.
It's immoral. It's totally immoral to do this type of action in any work, actually, because if you do this in an office work, it will be harassment. You'll be sued. So, yeah. So I guess a remark for governments or organizations, I think you should regulate modeling sector. I think it's a good advice. It should be regulated like any other sector, right? Because all sectors are regulated.
Yeah. And my guess is just in terms of the self-esteem side of it, it's even harder now with social media. People write the rudest things on social media about other people. For the most part, when I post stuff, people are very positive, but there's always those few like super mean, negative comments, and I've learned to just forget about it and move on. But social media has definitely made it, I think, harder for especially models, but actors get it. So, but the positive is you really learn how to have good self-esteem, to value what's really important. I mean, you can take it as a positive if you handle it the right way.
Sure. So, Jake, about all this journey that you did, what will be your next steps? I mean, you are entering in a movie, recently, just upcoming, something in future. How do you see also yourself in 5 or 6 years?
Well, I'll just talk about one project that I'm really. We talked about getting started on something. This is something that I'm determined to start on right like today. Let's say I'll get going today.
Sure.
I used to be friends with a Holocaust survivor that immigrated to the U.S. after being liberated from I forget which concentration camp, and I met her when I was in college. Interestingly, I reminded her. I looked at the time just like one of the guards that had freed her. I guess she went to Sweden after getting out of the concentration camp for about a year, and lived in. It wasn't a camp, but it was. I guess as Holocaust survivors adjusted back to kind of figuring out their lives, and I guess one of the Swedish. I want to say guards, but it was more than that. It was more of a. I mean, they became very good friends. I guess I looked very much like him. And she came up to me in the library at my university and started talking to me in Swedish. And I remember so clearly to this day, I just remember saying, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what, I don't understand what you're saying." And it's almost like seeing me had transported her back to this time of being freed and, 40, whatever years earlier. And we ended up meeting every week for about 2 years at Barnes and Noble and talking weekly. And we became very dear friends. She passed away, and I would love to tell her story. And I either want to do it through film, or one idea somebody had was that I do like a 2-person show where it's like conversations between the two of us. But also, she inspired me to basically compose music that capture kind of her experience. So either I want to use that as a film score for the film, or I want to, if we do like a 2-person show, there'll be moments where I go off and play the piano on stage and then go back.
Nice. I was actually going to ask about you. Have you been considering having a role playing piano in the movie? Yeah.
Yes, I mean I have, and I would love, and maybe I do the theater version that could lead to then doing a film version. But it's something that I need to do, as an honoring her, but also honoring the impact that she had on my life, on my music. I need to do that, and it's something that's been in my mind for years. And we talked about, again, getting started on something. It's time for me not to have it just be an idea floating in my head, but to have it be something that I get out there. And that's a good challenge for me to do that.
If you like to mention the name of the person, you can mention it. It's up to you.
Her name's Carrie Bodner, and she actually wrote a book. And some of what I have to figure out is legally getting permission from her family to tell her story. She did write a book. How much of that could I use? So there's some legal things I need to work out. And if I run into any problems with that, I can always honor her story without using an actual name. Or, I mean, I can. Her experience, I think, in some ways,
it's a beautiful story
It's a beautiful story, and I don't need to have it be like exactly how she told it to me. Without, I can still capture the spirit of what she went through in our friendship. So that's some stuff I need to, from a legal perspective, work out. But whatever I end up doing with it, something needs to be done, because it's very, very, and I think it's a story that would be very good for our world right now, especially in the U.S., where we unfortunately still have Holocaust deniers and anti-Semitism and white Christian nationalism and things that I don't, that go against what I believe in terms of humanity. So I think it's a story that could really resonate for a lot of people right now.
So it's very honorable. I mean, I congratulate you for that idea, because it's something really needed in this society, it's something to impulse humanity and the right values, because it's needed. People should have more compassion and definitely be looking out for your fellow citizens. I think it's a value in society that should exist all the time.
Yeah.
So, any other works coming up besides this one?
Well, I'm auditioning, so always auditioning.
Surprise, right? It's like a Pandora box, right?
And then I have another script that I've written with a writing partner of mine. We're also exploring some avenues of either selling the script or getting a production company interested, because we would also ideally love to act in it, not just sell the script. And then I'm also a consultant for another tennis movie coming that we're looking for some production companies and some funding. So lots of stuff going on. I don't have a lot of updates on those yet, but I definitely will keep you posted as stuff happens.
Well, sure. I want to keep myself posted regarding all these.
Yeah.
So, Jake, what information would you give if people want to reach you directly, an investor, or people want to mark you for a role or booking? What is your contact information?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also Instagram. I'm very active on there, and I actually do check my messages on there, unlike some people that I actually look at those. Jake Jensen Media is my handle for social media.
Okay.
And then, email is always good. I don't know if I can just spell it out or say it here, or we can put
It's up to you. It's up to you. No, I think we can leave it to social media. Otherwise,
that's a
throw it out with the emails, so. And
then I also have a publicist, Stephen Tropa, who's always you can contact him as well. And I'm on IMDb for actors. That's all my publicists, agents, everything's on there. So that's an easy way to get hold of me. Jake Jensen.
You also in a very nice radio show with Stephen Kluko.
Yes,
this amazing show also. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good time. Lots of interesting topics. It's fun.
Very nice. So, Jake, it was really interesting conversation. I really enjoyed it. It was very insightful. I think a lot of people got a lot of knowledge from your point of view and your experience in your sector. And I think definitely will help a lot of people, who actually see this or hearing this. For sure, it will help them, I'm pretty sure. So, what else could you tell? Do you want to add something else? Or...
Well, I want to thank you for all that you do. I really have a lot of respect for your show and what you're doing to spread different messages of humanity, which is so important. I really respect and appreciate you for doing that and having me on here today.
I appreciate it very much, Jake. Very much appreciate it. So, before I finish any show, I always ask the guest to say a power message. What will be your power message of today?
I think my power message for today is start something that you've been putting off. Start it today. For me, I'm going to do something with my story with Curie, and I encourage everyone listening, something that you've been putting off or been hesitating to start that you want to do something with it today. This starting is the hardest step. Once you start it, good things will happen. So I think that's my power message for today.
Sure. So it's what we talked about during the show, is that never be afraid, right? It doesn't matter what comes to you, you should always commit. So, Jake, it was really a pleasure to have you here today. It was a really good conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And for everyone else, you can catch us also. This podcast will be redistributed in Hispanic Public Media. It's a radio in Chicago. Thank you for Andy Lopez, Roberto Ramirez, and Emilio. So everyone, catch you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.